is United States Congressman Greg Casar, and this is serious. Yeah. This is a really scary day for people all over the world, because Donald Trump just threatened to wipe out the entire civilization of Iran. He's talking about wiping off the face of the earth a country of 90 million people, including countless civilians and kids. But this isn't just dangerous for people in Iran, it's dangerous for people all over the world and here at home, for him to threaten these massive war crimes and even imply potential nuclear war. This might be Donald Trump's most dangerous and unhinged statement yet, and he's being enabled by his cabinet, by Republican members of Congress, and we've got to up the pressure on all of them before Donald Trump puts us at grave risk, potentially drags us into World War III. And remember, Iran posed no immediate threat to us. Even right-wing members of Trump's government said that. This wasn't even a thing just a few months ago. And now he's putting us and the entire world at risk. So we have to up the pressure and put a stop to this right now.
I came in from doing garden work to have lunch, and I thought, I'll just see if there's any updates to the news on this awful, awful day. And my social media feed is just full of Democratic members of Congress begging their Republican colleagues, begging the cabinet to do the right thing, to uphold their oaths to the Constitution, invoke the 25th Amendment.
If the United States Congress has any life left in it, every member of Congress and senator must be calling for Trump's removal today based on the 25th Amendment. He's threatening the entire destruction of a civilization. He is calling Iranians animals. He is showing a total disregard for the humanity of people in Iran, in Gaza, in Cuba. This is a moral crime. It is a war crime. We need to be demanding that Congress convene today, and we need to be invoking the 25th Amendment.
Every Republican should be calling on Donald Trump to stand down. At the state level, at the federal level, at every level, we should be hearing a unified call to stand back and explore diplomatic ways to hold off from bombing civilization. These are 92 million people in Iran who are being threatened with war crimes. This is not a moment to hope that the president will once again back down. This is an extremely dangerous moment. We should be back in Washington, D.C., voting on a war powers resolution. But until then, I will be calling every Republican I can reach, every Democrat with strong Republican ties. We have to come together and demand that cooler heads prevail. This war must end. Pursue diplomatic options today.
I want to hear your response to President Trump's stunning threat this morning, saying that a whole civilization could die tonight. What's your response to that? What went through your mind when you read that?
I've been sick to my stomach for days. I mean, this language has been escalating every 24 hours. And I think Donald Trump is trying to normalize language that is essentially, threatening genocide, threatening war crimes, of course, threatening potential use of nuclear weapons. And I am just beyond astounded that we are not seeing so much more from all elected officials, and I'll include some Democrats in that, but Republicans who are in power. How is anybody in the cabinet allowing this to happen? How is nobody trying to restrain this madman who is trying to get all of us killed? And we have mechanisms to restrain him, and they're not being utilized. I think this is a nightmare scenario. It's apocalyptic. I mean, of course, as somebody with an Iranian heritage, seeing, threats against a population of 90 million people is devastating. And I take Trump at his word. I also want to say that. I think that a lot of people still try to say that Trump doesn't mean what he says. Trump has followed through with many of the most horrific pledges he has made over the course of the second administration, and we should not be taking this lightly. This is a massive 5-alarm fire moment and a historic moment in our country's history.
On those mechanisms that you just mentioned, you've called for the 25th Amendment to be invoked against the president after that expletive-filled Sunday post where he talked about bombing and taking out all of the infrastructure, including civilian infrastructure. But it's unlikely that Congress is going to take up the 25th Amendment. So where are the checks and balances? And do you see anything changing amongst your colleagues in Congress?
I mean, I just hope it doesn't have to take committing genocide against a country of 90 million people for Republicans to speak up. If you look at non-elected Republicans, people like, former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, people I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would agree with on anything, are reasonable and are sounding the alarm at the appropriate levels given the gravity of this moment. They are calling for the 25th Amendment. I'm thinking to myself, why does Vice President J.D. Vance, who has presidential aspirations in 2028, who always campaigned on ending forever wars, why is he not trying to orchestrate the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove Trump from office? He is mentally deranged, and threatening crimes of this magnitude are going to get Americans killed. So that is my focus today. I think every single person in this country needs to be calling the phones of Republican members of Congress and senators relentlessly today. Like, of all of the issues that have come up over the last year, all have been devastating, but we are talking about the potential for nuclear war here. That is the language that Donald Trump is using, and we should not pretend that it's not.
Yeah, and it's a big question whether or not voters are going to apply pressure here. But you're also calling for the impeachment of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. This effort, like the 25th Amendment, is most likely not going to move forward because Republicans are in charge of Congress. Democrats have also struggled to coalesce around a strategy at times of confronting the president and his administration. So why do this? Why put forward these articles of impeachment against Hegseth? What message are you hoping to send by moving this forward?
I'm introducing these articles of impeachment because I think that is what is warranted and what is even comes close to being responsive to how horrific current events are right now. I think it is, quite frankly, just an absolute abdication of responsibility to just be tweeting or putting out statements about Donald Trump being deranged and moving on. This is unprecedented in our country's history, that a person like Donald Trump, with his history, using this kind of rhetoric against a country, being so unrestrained and nobody stepping up to do anything. I think we have to try everything possible. As a freshman congresswoman, I'm trying everything that I can to inform the public of how urgent this situation is. Today, Donald Trump has said the deadline is tonight at 8 p.m. or 6 p.m. And if the Islamic Republic regime, which, by the way, this is a very ideological, repressive regime that is not going to capitulate to Donald Trump's demand. All that Trump is doing by threatening civilian infrastructure or the bombing of power plants or, bridges or ending civilization, in his own words, that is only going to strengthen the regime in Iran. They are using this to justify the propaganda that they've been selling to Iranian people for 47 years. This is why they will start. I've been talking to people inside Iran. They've already started executing protesters, accusing them of being spies for the West. We are literally handing a horrific, murderous regime more propaganda to harm Iranians. So honestly, I feel horrible for Iranian people who are in between bombs falling on them from the United States and Israel and the Islamic Republic regime that has been repressing them and killing them for 47 years. It is beyond heartbreaking.
I think some will pretend that they've never seen it. Some will foolishly cheer it on without recognizing that it's one of the most grotesque statements that's ever been made by any world leader in the history of global affairs. Vladimir Putin never threatened to destroy any civilization to the degree that it can't come back. Kim Jong-un in North Korea has never said something like that. And so for the American president, who literally has the biggest nuclear arsenal and largest army on the planet, to threaten civilizational end, it's deranged, it's unbalanced, it's destructive to the long-term safety and prosperity of the country.
I feel like that is just, it feels so insufficient. It feels very bleak to think that our hopes pin on Republicans doing the right thing, when for over a year, for 10 years really, but especially over the last year, they have fully supported Donald Trump's awful authoritarian takeover of the United States. They have collaborated, facilitated, they have empowered Donald Trump to do every awful thing he's done. So they have rubber stamped an ethnic cleansing in this country. They have rubber stamped massive cuts to Medicaid. They have fully bent the knee, capitulated, and supported Donald Trump as he systematically dismantles democracy, engages in overt corruption. They know what he is, and they have supported him anyway. So it just feels like Democratic members of Congress, the only thing you can do right now is to just beg your Republican colleagues to grow a conscience or a spine to do the right thing. We can't pin all our hopes on Republicans doing the right thing in this moment. And when it comes to the 25th Amendment, J.D. Vance is in Hungary right now supporting Donald Trump's desire to commit a genocide, and basically wink, wink, nudge, nudge, might be some nukes in there, right?
We feel confident that we can get a response, whether it's positive or negative. We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight. I hope they make the right response, because what we really want is we want a world where oil and gas is flowing freely, where people can afford to heat their homes and cool their homes, where people can afford to transport themselves to work. That's not going to happen if the Iranians are engaged in acts of economic terrorism. So they've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
We're looking at people from all segments of our society, all political persuasions, freaking out about this. This is devastating. When Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of the Democrats are this cannot happen. We have to constrain this madman.
So this is a message for my Republicans out there, and particularly I know some of you that are still in Congress or the Senate watch my stuff. Listen, you can call me woke, you can call me weak, you can call me a libtard. I don't care what you call me. But I believe that the United States of America has a moral imperative to back away from what Donald Trump is threatening today. When he says he's going to wipe a civilization off the earth, and he talks about bombing Iran back to the Stone Age, like your 85-year-old grandpa who's sitting around angry all day. The implications for our country for the future are massive. And not just if he does it, but even the mere threat of it. The Iranian people are on our side. By the way, this is why this all started. In January, they rose up. Donald Trump threatened to intervene and then built up forces and started this. But when you threaten to take away the civilian infrastructure, all the power plants, you will turn that population against you faster than anything. And beyond that, you will be a stain and put a stain on the soul of the United States of America. We haven't gotten everything right in our life, but I will tell you, one of the things we've always stood for is that we believe that an immoral act of war can have moral boundaries around it. And what you're talking about is pure collective punishment, misery, and evil. And to my Republican colleagues that still serve, this is your moment. The rest of your life, like January 6th, but now this, the rest of your life, the rest of your time looking in the mirror, the rest of your time talking to your kids and grandkids about what morality is, will be determined by this moment. Will you simply tweet a concern? Or will you actually say that if Donald Trump does this, you will support impeaching him, you will call for the 25th Amendment, and you will vote against every single one of his priorities in the House of Representatives or in the Senate? Because if just 2 of you Republicans in the House do that, you can shut down everything and change the world. This is your moment. Trust me, it's going to be hard. People are going to be mad at you. You're going to lose friends in the base. But looking at yourself in the mirror is worth all of it. And knowing that you stood for what is actually good and right and decent. But if you stay silent, or you do no more than tweet, you are complicit. This is our chance. This is your chance to right a lot of wrongs. Will you do it? Or are you completely unworthy of the position you hold? And are you completely violating your oath to the Constitution yet again? That's only something you can answer. I answered it.
If you work in the White House or in the U.S. military, now it's time to say no, absolutely not, and say it directly to the president, no. In case you're thinking about using some weapon of mass destruction against the population of Iran, in whose name we liberated Iran, we killed their religious leader for their benefit. Do you remember that? This was last month. Those people who are in direct contact with the president need to say, no, I'll resign. I'll do whatever I can do legally to stop this because this is insane. And if given the order, I'm not carrying it out. Figure out the codes on the football yourself.
The existential threat. How do we 25th Amendment his ass?
The problem is to get the 25th Amendment is harder than impeachment. You have to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate.
So what do we do?
Tackle Trump and pretend, let him pretend he's president and publicly report that he's going through a health issue and Vance take over. It literally needs to be something like that. It's that bad.
I've known you a long time. You've never called for an internal coup before.
Ever. But that's how dangerous this is. That's how risky it is for the whole world.
Yeah, if I was the Democrats, I'd stop poking Trump and messing with him. That only makes it worse. Like, you guys need to watch out. This isn't a guy acting like he's crazy. This is real.
Well, what's there going to be to take over in 2026 or 2028 if this hits the fan? If we get it, he's threatening an extinction level event for the people of Iran tomorrow. Does nobody think there'll be any blowback from that? If he follows through on that, the whole world is screwed.
You were saying during the break, there's other ways to do this. People need to just, not just tell him the truth, like Susie Walsh said. It's time to just not, I mean, say what you just said.
Yeah, well, legally and constitutionally, the vice president is an independent elected official. The same as legally and constitutionally, the only oath any member of the military takes, any member of the State Department takes, any member of the intelligence.
And Republicans are just sitting on their fucking hands. And everybody's like, Republicans, do something, do something. All they have done for 14 months is enable and empower Donald Trump. All they have done is be a pillar of support under him. I don't know how we get them to withdraw that support, right? And meanwhile, we're looking at folks in Iran who are making human chains around their power plants, musicians playing their instruments in protest. Like, these are human beings.
عزیزم سلام. نیروگاه برق دماوند هستم و نمیتونم بگم جای شما خالی به خاطر اینکه اینجا تهدید شده به حمله نظامی که امیدوارم اتفاق نیفته. دوست دارم صدای تار بتونه این بار نقش آفرینیش برای صلح باشه، برای جلوگیری از خاموش شدن چراغ خانه ها.
Millions and millions of people, human beings, that Donald Trump wants to wipe off the face of the earth. Why? Because Bibi Netanyahu wants him to? Because Donald Trump is desperate to, if he's going to go down in the midterms, he's going to take us all down with him, right? He's going to family annihilator all of us. It's really a scary time, and I don't want to minimize anybody's concerns. I don't really know what's going to happen next. I know that there is a demented, out of control narcissist who is completely disinhibited, paranoid, and is in a position where he is likely to do really extreme things. Did I not say a few days ago, did I not say months and months ago, that when things got very difficult and Donald Trump was backed into a corner, he was going to do extremely dangerous things, either to attempt to hold on to power or to punish all of us for the fact that it's slipping through his fingers. And it appears like that's the moment that we are in now.
But I just got off the phone with the president, and he called, and I said, listen, if you were to put odds on it, what were the odds that this is going to end up being a negotiated deal? He said he wasn't going to put odds on it, but he said 8 p.m. is happening. That's what he said. He said, it is, if we get to that point, there is going to be an attack like they have not seen. Now, he's sticking to that at this point. Now, he said if negotiations move forward today and there is something concrete, that could change. But at this hour, He didn't want to put odds on it, but he said it is moving forward with the plans that we have. That's a huge deal. And obviously, we all think that it's a thing that he's putting out there to say, don't do this. He says he doesn't want to do it, but he is, at this hour, sticking to it and saying it might be likely if they don't come to the table.
He is not just unprepared. He is temperamentally unfit to hold an office that requires knowledge, stability, and immense responsibility. This is not someone who should ever have the nuclear codes, because it's not hard to imagine Donald Trump leading us into a war just because somebody got under his very thin skin. We cannot put the security of our children and grandchildren in Donald Trump's hands. We cannot let him roll the dice with America.
I do want to remind folks of something that Timothy Snyder and others have been saying. These are obviously war crimes. Donald Trump is obviously committing war crimes, and anybody who assists him in this moment, anybody who does not stop him, does not quit their job, does not refuse to comply, to go along with what he's doing, is complicit in committing atrocities, committing genocide, committing war crimes. And there must be prosecutions for that. There must be justice for that.
The Genocide Convention of 1948 makes it a crime to conspire to commit genocide, to be complicit in genocide, to attempt genocide. All of these things are crimes. All of these things are to commit the worst possible crime. When the President of the United States has spoken of acting to end an entire civilization, anyone who's been around that conversation, anyone who is taking part in implementing something having to do with that conversation, anyone who is hiding an action directed to that conversation, you may be involved in committing what we as modern people have defined as the worst of all crimes.
We need to strive to stop him from doing the awful things that he is threatening to do in this moment, but also reminding all of the people around him, like, hey, you don't have to go along with this. You can just say no, thank you. You can just say, I'm not going to do that. In the moment when it really counts, just say, I decline to commit a war crime. I decline to murder millions of people for Donald Trump. I am not going to go to prison for this man. I am not going to have the deaths of all of these innocent people on my conscience. It's important for us in this moment to remind all of the folks around Donald Trump, because a dictator does not do these awful things in a vacuum by himself. These things, these crimes that he commits, all of the things Donald Trump has done up until now have only been made possible by the support of hundreds of people around him. And we have to, in this moment, remind all of those folks, members of Congress, his cabinet, like anybody in the military, everywhere, just say no. Just say no, thank you. I'm not gonna do this for you. I'm not gonna commit these crimes for you. That's an important part of the conversation and the messaging today. But I just want to remind folks that we don't know what will happen next. I also want to validate your fears. We shouldn't be freaking out. The world is not ending. Everything is not over. Donald Trump has made threats. He often backs down on those threats. He tacos frequently. There are people around him who still can constrain him. There are people around him who can stop this. Even if he will not stop, he is only able to move forward with the support, the assistance of those around him, and they can refuse to do that. So, I don't know, guys. It's a hard day. I don't know how y'all are feeling and thinking and moving in this moment. It feels very surreal to be like doing garden work. I know my husband went to go teach a bunch of students today, and it feels very surreal as Donald Trump is threatening to kill children, as our military and Israel have already destroyed something like 70 schools in Iran.
Headline, סופר, לאחור.
אולי מופלטות בחדר הדיונים של המשא ומתן יזרזו קצת את העניינים.
וואי, זה חייה סמך לבב אנוש, ברור.
ואתם רואים כאן את ליאור ורוצלבסקי שחזרה אלינו כדי להגיש את המהדורה במשך 8 שעות.
I don't know how any teacher is teaching today. I don't know how people are going about their regular lives today. It's so unbelievably surreal. Yeah. I don't want us to fall into despair, but I also don't want us to minimize the severity of this moment. So I would love to know your thoughts. I'm definitely struggling in this moment. I'm definitely feeling like there's a lot of potential for a lot of harm to happen over the next few days. And I understand we knew this was coming. I understand that Donald Trump will only escalate between now and the midterms, between now and whenever he's removed. You know what, Republicans? Donald Trump's cabinet, y'all should be removing him well before the midterms today. You should be removing him immediately. I think there's a low likelihood that Republicans will do the right thing. But then they are complicit. They are culpable for all of the things that Trump is doing now because they are the ones with the power to remove him. I don't know what else Democrats can do, but social media posts begging Republicans to find a conscience and to obey the law just feels so woefully insufficient. Do what you can to take care of yourselves and your loved ones today, and stay functional however you can. Hold out hope. If you have Republican members of Congress representing you, call them, email them, show up at their office, join your local protest in the streets, do whatever you can. Hold out hope, though. Yeah, okay, I'll be back.